What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, epic response on the part of undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence "Bud" Crawford. He responds to undefeated rival unified welterweight WBC IBF world champion superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, going into a mega showdown, that being superstar boxer Earl "The True" Spence Jr., who will be taking on legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer, August 21st, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena. With that said, Errol Spence was recently asked about Terence Crawford, some comments made by Terence Crawford, what he thought about Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, makes for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. With that said, Errol Spence, he responded by saying he was never going to put down Terence Crawford. He only wanted to uplift Terence Crawford. He wants to fight with Terence Crawford after he get past Manny Pacquiao. And he says that black athletes and black boxers just have too much pressure on them for him to bring down Terence Crawford or talk down on Terence Crawford. So he stated that he was only going to uplift Terence Crawford and said that he wished the best for him and he wants to make the fight happen, hopefully. With that said, Terence Crawford, he was recently asked on the show he did with Bart Scott on ESPN Radio, in which Terence Crawford was asked about Errol Spence and if he has any hard feelings towards Errol Spence, and can the fight ever be made, because we waited for 5 years too long for Floyd Mayweather to fight Manny Pacquiao. Are we going to have to wait that long for this fight? And what any hard feelings towards Errol Spence? And Terence Crawford, he returned the favor. He says, I have no hard feelings with Errol Spence Jr. at all whatsoever. It's all in competitive nature. Some of the things he said publicly about us fighting, I don't like. But him as a person, I'm always going to support him. I've been supporting Errol Spence from the Olympics, and I'm going to continue to support him moving forward. The only thing is, I believe I could personally beat him. Competitive part of me, competitive nature, wants to fight, but I personally believe that I could beat Errol Spence Jr., and that is the only thing that I have that's anything he would deem to be negative, because I feel like I can win the fight, and obviously he feel like he can win the fight. So he says that, and also when asked about can the fight be made, he says it's the promoters that is preventing this fight from happening. He stated that the promoters want to keep everything in-house. So if they're not in control 100% of both sides, then the promoters, so he stated that the promoters are the ones holding up the big fights. He stated that the difference between Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran's situation, the difference is that today's time, we have a situation where the promoters want to keep 100% of the revenue. So they want to be able to control all parties involved. So it's better for the promoters to have two fighters that are under their same banner and stable fight each other, where they keep 100% of the revenue and nothing seeks out. He says, so in the case of me and Errol Spence, that's the case that's preventing us from fighting. He says we have to learn as boxers to take control of the reins and force these fights to happen. He says that I've been waiting for a long time to secure one of these mega showdown fights. He alluded to his potential showdown with with two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter. He says he's just waiting for everything to unfold. He's waiting for the approval, and he says that this is a fight that he's been waiting for quite some time. But he alluded to the powers that be preventing the fight from happening, not that Shawn Porter has been preventing it. He says Shawn Porter has knew about me, and he seemed to be more focused on me as of late. But Shawn Porter was aware of me and knows what I bring to the table for quite some time, just like I'm aware of him. I'm excited about the opportunity and the challenge. So he states that, he can't wait, to, get in the ring with Shawn Porter and prove that he belongs on the top 3, top 2, #1 pound for pound, because they kept Bart Scott he kept saying that Terence Crawford, you're number 2 pound for pound. So Terence Crawford essentially was letting it be known that he just wants to prove that he belongs in the upper echelon of the welterweights and the pound for pound list. Okay, and this is definitely he agreed, and he essentially stated that this is the biggest fight in his career, biggest name wise. Okay, so this Bart Scott said it was a step up opponent. But obviously for Terence Crawford, it's not a step up opponent. You're 33 years old, 37 wins, no losses, no draws, 27 big wins by way of knockout. There's no such thing as a step up opponent when you're a 3-division champion and undisputed in the junior welterweight. Okay, so it's not a step up opponent. But as far as namesake goes, it is the biggest name and the biggest challenge on paper for Terence Crawford, and he confirmed that, right? He agreed. So when it comes to him and Errol Spence, he says that, the plan is to fight the winner of that fight. But nobody knows how everything plays out because the promoters essentially stand in the way. But that is the plan. He said, but first thing first, he has to secure a victory over Shawn Porter. Hopefully it comes to fruition. They're still in the negotiation stages. He says, either which way, if it goes to a purse bid, Shawn Porter's going to have to fight me, or we can negotiate and come to an agreement. But first things first, he has to get past Shawn Porter. He stated then in the future, what he'll do is if he can get past Shawn Porter, which obviously he's confident he will do, then the plan is to secure a fight between the winner of Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao. He also was asked about, why can't he get the big fights? Is it the fact that Errol Spence has, Dallas Cowboy, legendary owner, and Jerry Jones on his side, and that Jerry Jones, plays a major role politically in helping Errol Spence secure these big fights. He stated, he believes that Mikey Garcia, carried the fight between Errol Spence and himself in Cowboy Stadium. 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia. He says that he brought most of the fans to the table. I highly disagree with that. He said, but if I was able to secure the level of opponents that Errol Spence has secured, then I would be a much bigger name and much bigger star as well. So, again, he admitted that Errol Spence has been fighting a bigger name, the better opposition. As he stated, if he was able to secure those fights, he would be a much bigger name and much bigger star as well. And he stated that, it's the politics within the sport of boxing, not so much of Jerry Jones. Now, I have to disagree when he said that Mikey Garcia is a big reason for, for him, selling out Cowboy Stadium, because Mikey Garcia is a superstar. He's a big name. And Mikey Garcia did play a major role, okay? Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence, that fight did 350,000 pay-per-view buys. With that said, you remove Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence. And Terence Crawford, he even stated he wasn't trying to take away from Errol Spence's accomplishments and his star power and his brand. He just said he felt that Mikey Garcia was a big reason they did so many pay-per-view buys and so many ticket sales. But again, I have to disagree, because when he fought Showtime Shawn Porter, who's not seen to be nowhere near the superstar Mikey Garcia is, it only dropped 25,000. Okay, so it did 350,000 with Mikey Garcia. And with Shawn Porter, even Errol Spence, he said Shawn Porter can't sell out his family barbecue. So with that said, most people were saying Shawn Porter is not a big draw, never fought on pay-per-view, is not a big name, not a multi-division world champion. He's a two-time welterweight champion, but not multi-division. So he stated that, Mikey Garcia was the bigger draw. And for sure, Mikey Garcia is definitely a bigger draw than Shawn Porter. But Shawn Porter did with Errol Spence 325,000 pay-per-view buys, okay? And they sold out Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. So that's only 25,000 less pay-per-view buys than Errol Spence did with Mikey Garcia. So that means that Errol Spence carried the load when it comes to the Mikey Garcia fight, as well as Mikey Garcia had never fought on pay-per-view prior to that, and Mikey Garcia hasn't fought on pay-per-view after that, okay? And then Errol Spence did 315 to 320,000 pay-per-views buys with Danny Garcia. So he's consistent with his pay-per-view numbers, and when it's not even including Mikey Garcia, he's still doing consistent numbers. So I have to believe that, you know, a large part is due to that of Errol Spence and his star status. But this is great news on the part of Terence Crawford. Errol Spence, 27 wins, no losses, no draws. 21 big wins by way of knockout, 31 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. So he's 2 years younger than Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford will be 34 years of age in September. Okay, so he's about 2 or 3 years older than Errol Spence. Mikey Garcia, you know, he called out Errol Spence for quite some time. He pushed for the fight with Errol Spence, and he got dominated every single round, okay? And thereafter, you know, Errol Spence has been consistent with his pay-per-views. He's fought on pay-per-view after that, and he's been consistent with the numbers. Now, I agree, Mikey Garcia's star status, that tied to Errol Spence's star status, it made for very, very big numbers. But you remove Mikey Garcia and replace him with Shawn Porter, and it still did 325,000. So, essentially, you could say Mikey Garcia accounted for 25,000 pay-per-view buys. So, this is a huge fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and I love the fact that there's no true hard feelings, no bad blood there, and it's just all in competitive nature. This is the fight the boxing world wants to see, and hopefully it could get done. First things first, like Terence Crawford stated, you got to get past Shawn Porter, which seems to be taking place in November, and Errol Spence obviously has to get past that huge task in Manny Pacquiao, who is 62 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout. He himself was knocked out 3 times. Manny Pacquiao is 42 years of age, stands at 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. He hasn't been in the ring in 2 years, so it's going to be an interesting night. Both southpaws, very interesting. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. But I'm glad Terence Crawford says that he's always supported Errol Spence. He'll continue to support Errol Spence moving forward. He stated that, you know, he's been following and supporting Errol Spence since the Olympics. The only time he's not going to support him is when they step in the ring. Can't wait. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Oh, it is your boy Jada Kiss. Make sure you check out Blue Blood Sports TV. It's going down.